Hello everybody, I'm Bert with the PBIS Applications Training Team. Welcome to the second video in our SWIS Equity Report series. In this video, we will talk specifically about the risk ratio graph. As you can see, we already opened the SWIS Equity Report and have scrolled down to graph number 2, risk ratio. This report compares the risk index of an identified subgroup to the risk index of a comparison group, and tells us how likely the group is to have a specified outcome when compared to that comparison group. By default in SWIS, the risk ratio comparison group is set to the group of all other students, or those students who do not identify as part of the subgroup being considered. For more information about how to change the comparison group for your school's equity report, check out the SWIS Equity Report Orientation video, which is a tutorial overview of the equity report's settings and report options. To calculate the risk ratio, we divide the risk index of the identified subgroup by the risk index of a comparison group. If the value equals 1, the groups are equally likely to have that outcome. If the value is greater than 1, we would say it is more likely that the identified subgroup would have that outcome when compared to the comparison group. And if the value is less than 1, we would say it is less likely that this identified subgroup would have that outcome. When we open the data table, we find that SWIS has already done some math for us behind the scenes. Specifically, it has taken the risk index of an identified subgroup and divided that by the risk index of our comparison group. That gives us a number showing us how likely it is for the students in the subgroup to get a referral when compared to the students not in that subgroup. We call this the subgroup's risk ratio. Looking at the students identified as white in our building, we see 300 of the 504 students enrolled in the school identify as white, which leaves us 204 students included in the all other students subgroup. The risk index for students identified as white is 34%. The risk index for the group of all other students is 44%. To calculate the risk ratio for students identified as white, we divide the 0.34 by the 0.44, which is about 0.78, or less than 1. So in our demo school, students identified as white are 0.78 times as likely as all other students to have at least one referral, which means that they are about 22% less likely to receive a referral when compared to all other students. Back here at the graph, we again see each subgroup's total enrollment shown at the bottom of each bar. And with Show Values selected from the Options menu, we see each subgroup's risk ratio when compared to the group of all other students. In a perfect world, all groups would have about the same likelihood of receiving a referral. At this school, we see students identified as Latinx have a risk ratio of 1.04, which is very close to 1. Though not quite equal, there is a reasonably proportionate chance our Latinx students will receive a referral when compared to the group of all other students in the school. But we also see there are two groups that have a higher likelihood of receiving a referral than the group of all other students. Students identified as Black are 2.16 times as likely to receive a referral, and our Native students are 1.33 times as likely. These are red flags our team should follow up on and dig a little deeper to find out more about why these groups are receiving these outcomes. Having already noticed some disparate outcomes in the risk index and now the risk ratio graphs, we want to keep moving through the rest of the equity report to see if we can understand more about this discrepancy. Let's do that in video number 3, Rates by Group.